The film Come and See, directed by Elam Klimov, chronicles what life was like as a soldier in the Soviet resistance force in World War II, and more specifically as a young soldier in the resistance force. But the characters in the film, although they may be fictional, the situations surrounding them are historically accurate. But before we get into the characters, let's talk about the situation surrounding the film. The film is set in Belarus, or modern-day Belarus, in 1943, 2 years after Operation Barbarossa, and shortly after the Soviet victory in Stalingrad. There began a buildup of Soviet partisan forces, reaching 36,000 troops in the area. As the eastern front line of the war moved westward, the buildup forced more German troops in the area to retreat from the front line and join what was formerly part of the tail-end offensive against the Soviets. Along with this, there was growing excitement among citizens in German-occupied Belarus as Soviet forces looked west to connect back to the lands that were lost. This is where we are introduced to Florya, a young boy energized by the wave of nationalism brought on by the victory at Stalingrad. After digging up a rifle, which was often required to join the resistance at a young age, he leaves home against his mother's wishes. Father had left home to fight their country already, and now she was losing her son as well. Partisans often relied on these families or local peasants to provide supplies, livestock, or clothes, which is why Florya's mother relationship with the resistance was portrayed as strained at this point in the movie. And the mental deterioration of Florya also begins around this part as well. Upon arriving at the camp, Florya is ordered to stay and maintain the camp as the majority goes off to fight. And this is when he meets Kalasha, a nurse who begins to trust Florya and voices her disillusionment with the partisan forces. And this was fairly common, as there were also anti-partisan groups that were pretty common at the time. And both of them fled back to Florya's home village, only to find it had been raided and its inhabitants killed by Germans. And we know this is among many war crimes committed during the war. And we know that over 5,000 Belarusian settlements were destroyed during German occupation, with some of their inhabitants, or all of them, killed. And this isn't the last of the atrocities committed by the Germans in the film. Later, they round up villagers in a barn and set it on fire, and fire bullets into it at the same time. And some of the soldiers were enthusiastically participating, and others were visibly as shaken as Florya was, who was watching. This begs the viewer to question just how far nationalism can change a human. And I think this film portrays the answer to this question most of all. And it does that by using realism and surrealism to accurately portray life as a soldier under the authoritarian regimes of Stalin and Hitler. And the director said that this film is not meant to be anti-German, but was meant to be anti-war, anti-fascist, and I believe that he couldn't have made this any clearer in the film.
We Spartans are descended from Hercules himself, taught never to retreat, never to surrender, taught that death in the battlefield is the greatest glory he could achieve in his life. Spartans, the finest soldiers the world has ever known.
It's quiet now. They came from the blackness.
Be afraid! Sparta will burn to the ground! 1,000 nations of the Persian Empire descend upon you!
What must a king do to save his world?
Instead, ask yourself, what should a free man do?
Threaten my people with slavery and death.
This is madness!
Madness
This is Sparta! We will stand and fight! A new age has begun. An age of freedom. And all who know that 300 Spartans give their last breath to defend it. Spartans! Tonight we dine in hell! Give them nothing, but take from them everything! We're in for one wild night.
Athens did actually send soldiers to help the Spartans in defending Greece from Persian invasion, as well as other city-states from all over Greece sent their own soldiers as well. There's an estimated combined about 7,000 Greek soldiers that were at Hell's Gates to fight the Persians, and there's an estimated anywhere from 70,000 to well into the millions of the Persian invading force. So right there, even at the lowest approximation, you're looking at already 10 to 1 for the Persian invading army to the defending Greek soldiers. So as far as the scale that was shown in the movie as well, while there's a lot of Hollywood put into it, it is somewhat of a decent depiction of just what the Spartans and the other Greek soldiers had to defend against. The way they're depicted in the movie, let's talk about their spear, their short sword, their round shield, their helmet, their plumed helmet. Those are all pretty accurate. But as far as being mostly naked with leather thongs, that's not quite true. They actually, Spartans wore red armor, and they wore red armor specifically so that if they were wounded and started bleeding, it was a lot harder for the enemies to see that they were wounded. So it's kind of like a mental tactic. As far as the way they fought, in the first battle of the movie, you see the Spartans formed up in pretty much what a phalanx would be, where they've got their shields all at the front of the formation, forming a wall, and then the several rows behind that first row of shields, they're jabbing over their heads and between their shoulders with spears at the massive mob of Persian slaves attacking them. And that's typically how Spartans fought. While there is a little Hollywood thrown in there in the movie, that was accurate. Now, as far as the later scenes with individual Spartans going and taking 3 heads off with one swing of the sword, that's just a bunch of Hollywood. They didn't actually fight like that. When the Persian force came to the Spartans for the first time, the Spartans were told that they needed to lay down their weapons, and King Leonidas responded with, "Come and take them."
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight! This is where they die! And these shields, boys! Remember this day, man, for it will be yours for all time! Spartans! Lay down your weapons! Persians! Come and get them!
If you've ever seen any of these patches or shirts or even tattoos that look like they say "Born Abe," that's actually Greek lettering, and that stands for "Come and take them." So that is pretty accurate to the movie.
People are so easily distracted. So I'm the distractor with a little story. People can't get enough of them because, well, they connect the stories to themselves, I suppose. And we all love hearing about ourselves. So long as the people in the stories are us, but not us.
This'll tell the tale.
I'm Buster Scruggs.
You're shooting ironwork.
Appears to do, yes.
Do you have anything to say before sentence is carried out?
Sentence? What's my sentence?
Things have a way of escalating out here in the West. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings.
That man is a wonder. Oh, we'll just have to see, won't we?
Crazy business.
First time?